Now let's try to simplify x squared minus 4x minus 12 over x squared minus 4. Now I made here a very simple procedure on how to simplify rational expressions. So the first thing you'll do here is step one, we need to factor out our numerator and our denominator. So to do that, let's use our guess and check method. So you want to factor out x squared minus 4x minus 12. So you want to factor that out. So the first step will be you want to have two numbers. Okay, so let's start by factoring x squared first. So x squared is x times x. X squared is x times x. Now let's try to factor out our negative 4x and the negative 12. So you want two numbers, same numbers. Okay, you want these two numbers the same. So that number should be the same here, and that number should be the same here. So you want two numbers that if you multiply them, you'll get a negative 12. But if you add them, you'll get a negative 4. Okay, so we have 6 and 2. So we'll use 6 and 2. Now I'm using 6 and 2 because from 6 and 2, I can get a 12 and I can get a 4. The other factors of 12 are 1 and 12, 3 and 4. But from here, I cannot get a 4. Okay, so I cannot get a 4. So going back here, now let's go to the sign. That's negative, so one of them should be negative. But look at negative 4. Okay, so since this is negative 4, the bigger integer, which is 6, should get that negative. So we place there negative 6. So let's try to check that. Negative 6 times 2 will give us negative 12. Negative 6 plus positive 2 will give us a negative 4. So we will use those two integers, negative 6 and positive 2. So we have here negative 6 and positive 2. So those are the factors of your numerator. Now, let's do the denominator. For the denominator, so you want, so by the way, what is the middle number here? When I say middle number, going back to the standard form of a quadratic equation, so we have ax squared plus bx plus c. So your ax squared here is your x squared. Your c here is your negative 4. So we are we don't have the positive bx. So in this case, actually we have the positive bx, which is 0x. So to rewrite that so that we will have the middle term, it should look like this. Since we don't have it here, so we write 0x minus 4. So doing the same pattern with what we did with the numerator. So you would factor out x squared first. So that will give us x and x. Now you want to factor out negative 4. So you want two numbers that if you multiply, you'll get a negative 4. But if you add them, you'll get the middle, which is 0. So basically, since that's 0, so you will have the same factor here, which is 2 and 2. 2 and 2. Now 2 times 2 will give us a positive 4, so 1 should be negative. So we'll have a negative 2 and positive 2. So let's check that one again. So we have now here negative 2 times 2 will give us negative 4. Negative 2 plus 2 will give us a 0. So we're going to use negative 2 and positive 2. So that's -2 and +2. So that is step one, factor. Now, step two will be divide out. When I say divide out, you want to look for common factors in the numerator and denominator. So in this case, x plus 2 are common factors. So we would divide those out. And now we're left with x minus 6 over x minus 2. So that is the simplified form now of this equation here. Now, as you can see here, we have the third step, which is exclude. So we want to look for the excluded value of x. Now, in this case, I'll teach you a method. So we're just going to make here a comparison. So this is your original. This will be the simplified. What was our original equation or expression? It's here, right? So that is our original expression. So we have x squared minus 4x minus 12, and our simplified expression is x minus 6 over x minus 2. Now we want to, oh sorry, forget that, so that should be minus 4. Now, so you want to find now the excluded value of the original and the simplified. So what are the excluded value of the original and the simplified? So you would want to solve for the excluded values by getting the denominators and then equate it to 0. So for the simplified one, we would write x minus 2, then just equate that to 0. Then you solve for x. So that will give us x equals positive 2. So for the simplified, the excluded value is positive 2. Now for the original, how do you find now the excluded value of the original? So to do that, you want to go to your factored form and get the denominator. So the factor form of our denominator, x squared minus 4, is x minus 2 times x plus 2. So you would want to get the excluded values here. So we have x minus 2, equate that to 0. And then you have another one, which is x plus 2 equals 0. So let's solve for our x. So add 2 on both sides. So we have now x equals positive 2. Here, subtract 2 on both sides. So x now will be negative 2. Now, if you try to see for original, the excluded values are positive 2 and negative 2. While for the simplified, the excluded value is positive 2. So since they both have 2 as excluded values, we don't need, okay, we don't need to write that both or the problem, okay, has an excluded value of positive 2. Instead, we would just write the different excluded value, which is the negative 2. Meaning the excluded value now of our problem will be negative 2. X should not be negative, it should not be equal to negative 2.